Hey everyone, this is George Soto and you're watching Startups Unedited.
Proud of that person.
Absolutely. So this will be our take one. And, first of all, thanks so much for taking the time to chat, and hello to everyone viewing this startup roundtable with Dan Murphy and Tim Parks. Dan, Tim, thank you so much for joining us today. How's everyone doing? You guys are now in San Francisco, right?
That is correct. Now in San Francisco.
Yeah. Yep. 10th market. Living the dream.
Nice.
We're not in Brazil.
You're not in Brazil.
Yeah.
So a little bit about my summer. So, I left Twitter back in February to, embark on a new journey, building out a sales automation tool. And, for a couple of different reasons, they ended up, or the team decided to kind of go different ways. And great team, great folks. They're really fantastic consultants. I kind of wanted to take some time to travel. I'd been kind of working my tail off for many years and found a window of opportunity to go. And so I've been actually traveling the world the past several months, meeting startups and founders, all over the place. And this time I spent some time in Brazil, and I can tell you that the startup experience and energy is super exciting everywhere. And it's not just in the Valley. And one of the things that we've been doing here at Soto Ventures, and just a little background, Soto Ventures is really about inspiring and educating entrepreneurship all over the place. So, right now it's not a for-profit business. We're not selling ads to make money, earning that sort of stuff. This is really more of a passion project for everyone involved. So, today really wanted to cover a couple of topics. We've been entrepreneurs for a while. I know, Tim, you and I have been communicating for a while. You did AngelPad. I know I did AngelPad as well. Thomas Corte is phenomenal. UpCounsel is a phenomenal concept. I think you guys are just getting started now. You're part of what I like to look at or categorize as the SaaSification, or not necessarily SaaS, because I know there's a business side and there's a consumer side there, but really the modernization of these traditional markets like legal services and those sorts of stuff. Tim, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what you guys are up to at UpCounsel and kind of what the future is for the business?
Yeah, for sure. First off, just one correction. I'm actually not the founder of UpCounsel, but Matt and Mason did go to AngelPad and were part of that program. I joined about 8-10 months after they got out of AngelPad. So, UpCounsel, I think you started talking about a very interesting topic, and I agree. I don't think it's SaaS necessarily. I do think it's business services, and I think it's about how do we effectively access legal services at a reasonable rate inside of small businesses. And I think that's always been a pain point when you talk to people about, hey, do you have a good lawyer? How much does it cost? Do you feel like you're getting fleeced every time? These are just like standard things that people talk about when you talk about the legal industry. So we've developed a highly curated group of attorneys along with a really slick and easy product to connect, and not only just connect for the first time, but then manage a lot of your legal experience with that attorney over the platform. I think Dan in the corner here is one of my favorite customers of UpCounsel, actually. So he can talk a little bit more about it from a client side. But the idea here is like we're empowering attorneys with great software to make them more efficient, to find clients and to work with clients, and make it really easy and effortless for clients to manage, invoice, pay, and also review those attorneys.
Well, I have to actually add that I've been a customer as well, and I've always enjoyed the experience that I've had with you guys as a business. So I got to just point that out.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Now, Dan, just a little bit about yourself. You and I have been friends for a while, communicating. I know you've been now at Import.io, helping them grow, not just necessarily their pre-existing business, but helping them grow into the enterprise. Tell us a little bit about the product and where you guys are sort of moving towards.
Yeah, sure. So we're kind of, when I joined, we were well known. I think we still are for our free tool, which lets anyone turn a web page into like a structured data set they can put into a spreadsheet. a lot of guys use it for building lists of people they can contact off Yelp or other directories. And my challenge was to kind of figure out, can we make some money out of this? We certainly made a lot of buzz. We weren't making any money. And add to that we couldn't monetize the free tool and just charge a premium on that. We ended up developing an enterprise data service. So it's for folks who have proven out that they need data from the web. For example, one of the largest book publishers was using our free tool, and they wanted to kind of industrialize the data collection process. That's when they turned to us to get an enterprise data feed they can rely on and not have to build a team in-house. So that's kind of what we've been up to.
It's interesting. I was meeting with an entrepreneur here in Rio yesterday, and he's got a pre-launch product, and it's a marketplace of services. And I said to him, back in 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, we had to somehow compile all this data and build a database of let's say service providers. And what I told them was, you don't have to necessarily do that 100% anymore. You can use tools like Import.io to, even if you just imported, called the web and imported 25% of that data, that's 25% better user experience than you would have had with an empty shell. So, I think you guys are powering some very interesting things.
Yeah, it's super interesting, especially for entrepreneurs that are trying to prove out that quickly build that first product, that concept for an app. Like, maybe it's a real estate app and they need to get a lot of real estate listings quickly. Our free tool's great. They can really prove it out, maybe even monetize. And then when it makes sense to, go take it up and scale it, we've certainly got enterprise services that can help out with that.
Got it. Well, guys, quick question. We've all been entrepreneurs for a long time. I know, Tim, you run growth, which is incredibly important, right? Without growth, the business can't certainly survive. From my perspective, what are some of the things, that you've learned over the years as a, because I like to even say, let's say you're not even necessarily the official founder. You've been there for a while. You've been part of some of the most important decisions for the business. What are, let's say, 2 to 3 things that you've learned as an early stage employer, certainly part of the founding team, that maybe were sort of new concepts?
It seems like every day something new happens that I was not expecting. So I think to that end, I'm trying to think of what the phrase is, but you basically, anything can happen, anything goes. And I think you just have to be ready for anything. I guess I'm talking more specifically about some stuff that's happened in the last sort of year and a half here. But just when you think that something's going well, something happens. And so, I think it's the concept here is just more about how to handle that type of environment where, we're all trying to go up and to the right, and we're all trying to grow these businesses. But the truth of the matter is that to get that thing going up and to the right, you have to somehow coordinate, whether it's you're looking at the different channels of customer acquisition. All of them have to move up in order for you to go up and to the right. But guess what? 1 month, something happens and something's not working right. So you took a 10% hit on one of your channels. Well, guess what? How are you going to get that extra 10% across the other channels? It's like, okay, is that possible? How do we do it? And so I guess I'm just thinking this idea that you've got to be ready for everything, and you've got to have a way to handle it with an even keel, and sort of like a structured framework to say, like, okay, I mean, it can't be a fire drill every time. It's just sort of like how you do business. So I think just learning to handle those types of curveballs and have it in an effective way that doesn't sort of make the work environment unpleasant, that doesn't, you just got to have fun with it. But it's a fact, and it's really challenging because it makes the problem much harder every single day.
It's interesting. I think a lot about the way that internet companies or web-based businesses, technology companies scale now, and the possibilities are endless, right? Never in the history of humanity that I'm aware of Could we build a website and be immediately a global business, right? At least theoretically. And at the same time, because of the nature of the internet, the barriers to entry are a little lower, and competitors can pop up, and as you mentioned, new channels can emerge, and existing channels can go away. How do you develop a mindset? You mentioned being even keel. Like, how do you train the team to develop that mental toughness and the mindset to be able to endure that and not have nervous breakdowns every day? Because I get it, right? I've been there.
Yeah,
I had one
yeah.
about a year ago.
Yeah, I think look, there's a lot of components to that. I think obviously part of this, which I think is it's not a learning and it's not something new, but it's actually something that I think people just don't respect enough, which is the quality of the people that work in an organization are the most important thing. So no matter what that is, whether it's how hard they work, whether it's how smart they are, how innovative they are, how data-driven they are, insert whatever is important for your culture and your company, that starts the discussion. And then how to manage pressure and how to manage curveballs. And I think for me, what I've seen is that it's got to be that the people that are managing those people understand what they're doing and understand the challenges that they face. And if you can't understand that, then you're going to set unrealistic expectations. And then those expectations are going to go unmet. And then you're going to be frustrated. And then the person who's doing it's going to be frustrated. And it's not going to work out. So it's like, and projection setting, I think, is very challenging in this market when things change so quickly. But I think that having someone who is invested in the channel that you're trying to grow, and then as a manager being responsible enough to understand the pressures of what that person's trying to do and whether or not that's possible, you need to set the limit high. And I definitely push people. But I think you've got to be there in their corner when they are having a problem and sit down. And, it means maybe one day you got to spend a day working through an issue with them and making them feel like you actually appreciate what they're doing. So, a lot of my stuff that I say is more common sense stuff that my grandfather taught me like a long time ago. So it's just, I think you treat people nice and you work with them and you try to solve a problem, you communicate, and that gets you pretty far. And then all those things, the buzzwords in Silicon Valley you can talk about, but typically it's about your good work ethic and being communicative and working together. And that gets you pretty far the way.
Dan, I know you've been very early at Import. That I am aware of, the Import founders were UK-based guys, and you've been building out essentially all the North American efforts and team, etc. What are some of the things that you've run into that maybe you weren't aware of that you've been able to overcome?
I think that for me, it's always been like in the chaos, revenue and signing real dollars is the only true metric. Like the rest can be fudged and get a little confusing sometimes. And the final outcome you're trying to hit is dollars. I mean, it speaks to everyone, investors and late stage investors, early stage investors, everyone gets dollars. So I think that's an honest metric. So that's been really useful to keep coming back to, like, how is what I'm doing today going to make money tomorrow? And I've got two things that I look at. One is that, am I closing deals? Am I like talking to people that are in the funnel and we're seriously talking about signing? And if I'm not doing that, am I getting leads? Like, where's the top of the funnel? And like my life, for the first year here is really just alternating between the two. I don't think I did a very good job at any of them, but I got enough done to like keep flow in the funnel. And then you start to hire, okay, someone's going to work on leads, right? So let's hire into that role. And then at the moment, we're hiring like account execs to do closing. And so we're slowly starting to become a proper kind of sales organization. So yeah, for me, like revenue was the key thing. The other thing that was interesting as well is in our business, and I guess like anyone, when you're building out the product at the start, is you're going to sign a lot of deals that are probably not very good deals. Tim, you've probably had deals that, maybe you get leakage in the funnel or, leakage in the marketplace. They're just not nice deals. You never know that till you sign them and do the delivery piece, and then you find out it sucks. And we've certainly had it. There's certainly a bucket of deals that we could be doing that really suck. And we kind of, inform our sales process. So we ask questions and knock them out of the funnel. So that was the other thing, is like revenue is critical, but some revenue is not good revenue.
This is a very, very interesting theme. I just went through this while we were participating in the, building Dash Tab. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that product. I know that Dan, you saw it, and
yeah,
this is something. Oh, thank you. Well, they still have it, by the way, if you want to ping them. They're providing it as a plugin, but to their services. But in any case, and they're great guys, I got to say it once again. We dealt with this also at MoPub, and when we started the business, it was kind of like, hey, let's just get anyone to get on the platform. We just need some developers. And one of the things I think that we try to do sometimes as founders or entrepreneurs or even just growth or sales professionals is, we try to overthink it sometimes, or we tend to overthink it. And I thought that, one of the things, again, what we did is that we just got folks on the platform understanding that maybe they weren't going to be the ideal customer profile or the prospects that would scale with us, but they gave us some reference points. There was some data to look back at. And as time progressed, we started to understand, of course, we were an ad tech business. So we were all about how many impressions you as a mobile app had. And then we started targeting developers that had larger numbers. But again, we needed a reference point. If we didn't understand that 1,000 impressions per month was not actually a good baseline metric, if we didn't have that data, we would have never known. And today, I've been gone out of the game from Twitter now for almost a year. But towards the end of my stint there, we wouldn't talk to you or allocate a sales resource unless you were doing about 100 million impressions per month, which is very different from when we started the business. What are some of the things that you've been able, or processes or tools, Tim, and this would be a good question for you, that you've been able to implement to be able to understand those metrics and understand, well, what is a good customer today as opposed to yesterday, not just necessarily from a sales perspective, but as a business?
Yeah, data is key. And I can tell you that, whether it's here at UpCounsel or previously when I was at Udemy, data is the way that you're going to find the answer to your question, and it's going to, empower you to move fast. So I think that how do we use data, or how do you set up data from an infrastructure perspective? I think that there's a lot of good conversations to be had there. But I do think that having someone early on in your business who can help drive data as a tracking, as setting up your database, making sure that you're going to be able to provide SQL terminals to everyone on the team so that they can query the database themselves. I think that that's really important, especially as we go forward. I've been pretty fortunate to work with some great folks to make that data accessible to people. And then, whether it was pulling SQL queries myself or, being able to work with folks who could help, I think that that's key. Right now at this phase, we are implementing some data visualization tools and also some exploration tools. So, whether it was Tableau we've been using Tableau, we're actually now going to be looking at, we're actually building our Looker dashboards. Mm-hmm. So, it's been interesting to see. And I think that that's it's still a new product and service that is going to be key for so many companies. And I wouldn't say that what we've done is necessarily the right or wrong. I think it really depends on how your infrastructure is set up to be able to connect with these new tools that are out there and what's easiest for the team. But really exciting stuff, whether it's Chartio or Looker, or we evaluated a whole slew of products. And then we also, to be honest, our data engineer actually built the initial sort of reporting interface internally. And, we used that for the first year. And then now, as we're kind of leveling up, we're actually going to be exporting some of that, so we don't have to maintain two services.
So do you think, and I have my own opinion on this, but I'd love to hear both of your thoughts. Ben, do you think that a data scientist or a pretty technical sales operations hire is a good individual to bring on early on, or what is a good time to hire that type of individual?
Yeah. So I would separate, I mean, I would put there's a different end of the spectrum. Depends on your business, obviously, right? I mean, who knows? What I would say for us, the most important thing to at the early days is to be able to actually get the data out and put it in the hands of the people that are on the ground, right? So if you're on the business team and you're operating and you need to understand how people are using the product, how much they're using the product, how much they're spending, where they're going, how are they getting in, what are they doing? To have that sort of tracking in place is more of an engineering and maybe a data engineer and someone who can. And then I think depending on your business, I think you can wait for data scientists. I mean, you need a lot of data for data scientists. And I think that's one of the funny things. If you're a great
Lost Tim.
I think we lost him there.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, what are some of the, I guess, your opinion on this, tools or processes that you've been able to put in place to be able to understand? I think what Dan was mentioning, or Tim was mentioning, was this conversion funnel. A lot of those metrics that I think are incredibly important nowadays as a business that runs online. We can really understand the user in pretty granular ways.
Yeah, totally. So we've got, I think there's a differentiation here. Like we have our free tool, which is a high volume of users, in the tens of thousands. And then we have an enterprise sales funnel, which is the piece that I'm kind of running. It's just very low volume. Like we'll deal with like 100 or so new leads per month or per week, sorry. And then we'll qualify them through. So for me, in terms of data and measuring that funnel, MQL, SQL, close, and then a one-loss analysis, and understanding the lost reasons and why people are dropping out of the funnel is critical. And that's really helped us like narrow in on what's a good deal for us and like what's not a good deal for us, and like how to qualify them out earlier in our process. Now we're kind of looking towards the very top of the funnel, the free tools, and like, okay, we're getting lead flow from that, but how do we get smarter about it? And that's kind of where we're into the realm of like what Tim's talking about, like really high volumes and a lot of users. And that's where we need to start, writing to a database and being able to query the database. And that's going to be really exciting. So it's interesting. It's like we've got two pieces of the funnel. One is like the true enterprise sales, like it's lower volume. And certainly at this stage, just lower volume. And then the lower touch piece of the funnel is where we need to invest now. The next quarter, we really need to get on top of it and get up to speed.
And when you say lower touch, are you saying being able to pre-qualify, let's say MQLs, using automation, using tools, and kind of increase the amount of leads that are, or decrease perhaps the amount of leads that are really unqualified before they even hit a human?
Yeah, so we're actually looking to increase the number of qualified leads that hit the MQLs, marketing qualified leads, by doing proactive outreach, kind of like what HubSpot did. If you did certain things on the website, they would reach out to you with useful information and some guidance. That's kind of what I'm super excited about now. We're going to be kicking that off for the next week or so here. I kind of look at when you're looking at instrumentation of your pipeline, I think it's a ratio of humans to leads. Like as a salesperson, you'll be working like maybe 20 deals, 30 deals in your pipe, depending on your deal size and how transactional you are. But if you're closing 30K deals, you want to close 2 of them a month. If you're an app like Udemy or UpCounsel, the ratio of people to participants is like hundreds of thousands to every one person in the company. So you need to have, systems that scale like that. Whereas for us in the sales process, at the end of the week or the end of the month, we'll look back and just go through our deals, and that'll be our data set. But when we want to get data on the top of the funnel, we're going to have to deploy what Tim's talking about and really nail that.
Tim's service for me, it's an industry that's been around for, forever, and companies like UpCounsel now are really helping disrupt that and that space and make it more, automated and efficient. Your business is kind of this new type of business. How much time do you spend educating prospects as to why they should use this, as opposed to them just kind of getting it off the ground?
Yeah, I mean, this is the exciting thing. I had this conversation in an interview the other day, like how much of this is challenger sale versus solution selling and stuff. And to be honest, like we're clearly at the very tip of the iceberg, or whatever you want to call it. People who come to us through our sales funnel have already used the tool. They're highly educated about the options. They probably already built something, and the conversation is really a build versus buy, and like, let me, help you find the right option for scaling and get some costs for you on that. And then you can make the choice. So that, I think this has been well documented that it's more of an inbound funnel. By the time the client gets to you, it's super educated. Now that's just, I think, a stage of the business, and like, hooray, how exciting that we've got this great inbound funnel, and that's going to be our focus for the next 2 quarters, is really nailing that. But there will be a point where we've exhausted that, and we're going to need to really, that's going to be the very top of the funnel with content and education, which is like, hey, you're a company, you look at your data in-house, you're a CRM, your accounting system, but hey, all your competitors and your pricing is on the web. Why don't you add that to your data mix? And that'll be the kind of, educating the market piece, but we're just not there yet. And I think most startups that are really onto something, when they start, they're just like signing orders, and we're not, we're pretty much there kind of, but they're certainly not educating people, there's a trend that's happening and they're responding to it. And I think we're responding to the trend that everyone's realizing, shit, my pricing's on the web or whatever, and I need to get a handle on that. And I need a partner to give me that data on a reliable basis. So, it's fun.
Well, guys, in terms of, again, thank you so much for taking the time. In terms of closing remarks, Tim, what is, one tool that you would give ahead of growth, or strategy that you would give ahead of growth at a startup today that you think will help them just move the needle a little bit, understand their business a little bit, or close some deals or generate some business?
Wow, that's a good question. I would actually say that the best thing you can do still for me, that has always helped me in the earliest days, is find an incredible person on Odesk, Upwork, whatever the hell you want to call it, that you can trust and that you can work with and with process, because that it just makes you like 10 times more productive, and you can't automate that yet.
Yeah, we saw that Udemy, UpCounsel. We're doing the same at Importa, and I think that's just amazing. I mean,
so it's outsourcing work that's structured and finding people that can learn your business and become like a key resource for you.
Yep.
So it's all about quality of people still.
Quality people. See, you mentioned this earlier, and this gets me really excited because I'm all about the human experience and the humans that are involved in business. It drives me nuts especially when I got to the Valley for the third time 5 years ago, and everyone was trying to automate us salespeople out of the equation, and thinking that they could just send mass email blasts to everyone and people would buy, and I think we're seeing the value of us humans once again. And yeah, we can use technology and automation to scale quicker or be more efficient. But at the end of the day, it's really about the human. And I really appreciate you saying that, Tim. But because we can have cheaper services or have a cheaper operating cost by outsourcing, but you really need great people that you can trust. So I really appreciate that.
It also is my business, right? I mean, we have a service of lawyers, and if our lawyers aren't good people and are not good, then we don't have a business. So, you know, it's about those relationships and about finding the right people who can become more efficient using technology. So it's a hybrid.
Guys, are you guys hiring? If anyone wants to maybe look at jobs or get in touch, what's the best, Tim? What would be the best way to get in contact with you? Send you a resume or maybe just send you a note?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to UpCounsel.com, there's a careers page, and that careers page has the list of jobs. There's a bunch of job openings that we're doing, whether it's account execs, account management, more on the operations side. There's a lot of roles. So feel free to submit and say that you saw Tim Parks on whatever Blab, and you know, obviously we'll make sure to review that resume. And then if you want Dan's personal email to send his resumes to Dan, go ahead. You can tell them.
And Tim, real quick, if they want to follow you on Twitter, it's Timothy J. Parks, correct?
That is correct. Very active Twitter feed.
Right on. How about you, Dan?
What about specifically jobs? Yeah, definitely hiring account execs, and Twitter, Dan T. Murphy. Very inactive as well.
Well, guys, have a great day. I will be back in Silicon Valley, San Francisco shortly. So we got to get together and have a beer or two and talk shop once again.
Sounds good.